September 2018 was a landmark day for an entire community of people in India. On that day, Section 377 was read down by the Honorable Supreme Court, thereby freeing and liberating persons from the LGBTQIA community in India forever. But have things really changed on the ground? How included does the community feel in anything and everything, be it education, work, or social life? IET, the Institution of Engineering and Technology, is trying to bring about this change. IET is a UK based institution in India for the past 16 years. Its ethos has always been towards inclusion and inclusion of all, not just the queer community. As part of its initiatives towards inclusion, IET has started digital conversations. This is part of one such digital conversation. This series is going to be known as Unexclude, and the idea of naming it so is because it is not to include someone into the fold, but to open our eyes to people who already exist within the fold and try and see where our biases and prejudices towards them lie so that they feel like they belong inside the circle. The idea is to reduce our bias, our exclusions, and therefore unexclude. I am Squadron Leader Delshad Master, a queer sensitization catalyst, and a veteran. I served the Air Force for about a decade, and post retirement from the Air Force, I forayed into diversity, equity, and inclusion, within which I specialize in the LGBTQIA community. That is how my moniker Queer Sensitization Catalyst came to be. I will be a part of Unexclude, having these digital conversations with as many people from the community as possible in order to learn from them, in order to know their pain points, in order to look hopefully at the future and try and chalk out a roadmap through which we can make people feel less excluded. With me today is Sunil. Sunil, the stage is all yours. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Dilshad, for having me here. My name is Sunil. My pronouns are he and him and they. Uh, and I identify as a gay man. And I'm I was an engineering student, and now I have over 10 years of experience working in IT, working on different projects with different startups in India. So very happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Dilshad.
Thank you, Sunil. Sunil, I wanted to ask you about your childhood, your growing up, the challenges you would have faced growing up. Anything that you can share about the realization and how your journey was after that.
Um, okay. So, if I introduce, my name is Sunil. I mean, that's known, and I identify as a queer man, as a gay man. And growing up, I think, and I recently spoke about it, and like I'm 35, so it took some time, and recently, I had to give one presentation, and there, I was going through my life journey I had to share, and then I was recalling my childhood. Like you tend to forget and you don't recall it every day and all. And I remember the one of my first memories is I was like maybe 3.5, 4 year old, and I think I was going from school, like from this playway to nursery. There was no playway, I think earlier there are anganwadis. So anganwadi boys. So I was going to nursery school, and I remember I have this vivid memory. I'm like, my parents are sitting and I'm there, and my parents got me school dress, and it was a shirt and shorts. So, and I'm telling them I'm wearing it, and I'm moving around circling, and I'm telling my parents I want a skirt.
Okay.
And my parents told me, that no, boys wear shorts and girls wear skirts. And that is, one of my first memories, and a very vivid memory. And that's like had been a cornerstone, how you get indoctrined into that what are the gender roles, that you are allowed to do certain things, you're not allowed to do certain things. Even the clothes, as a kid, I didn't know, you know. And
Correct.
how did I come to know is like when my parents told me, no, this is right, this is wrong, these are the rules. And I think that time I didn't know I was, what was my sexuality, how I did identify. There were no words in my vocabulary. I was just four. But my expression was hindered, was curbed at
Correct.
that very, at such a tender age. And that says, and I think that subconsciously has, over the periods defined my, life, that how it's, going to be. I remember when, I was like 10, and I went to playground, and people were like, oh, why to play cricket. And gully cricket was a huge thing, in 90s and
Correct.
2000.
Correct.
So they're like, why you're running like girls, why you're not running, why you're throwing, and that I think that stopped me from doing, going to playground and playing. And after that it becomes, every time it becomes a self censorship. As a
Correct.
child, I always say a child is there to enjoy the wonders. We are here to experience, the wonders of life, which it gives us. But when you hear such comments, they might be very mild comments, they might be very small conversation, but like I remember it even after years of, my life. And then, that shows the impact, the small conversations, small comments, effects can people have. And that's how, for me, it was, it hindered me. And it always kept me in a self censorship mode, where I
Correct.
knew that okay, certain things I do are not appreciated, are not liked, I get picked out on them. And then you see, if certain other people are doing well, like somebody's playing good, or they're like, even as a kid, or growing up, they're a little more uh, cisgender, or like more like in the gender roles they get appreciated and all. So that has how my journey been growing up, where it was always about self censorship.
Correct. Like one or two major incidents that have then created a barrier, that wall, post which you don't want the comment coming from someone, so you just censor it yourself. You just
Yes, yes.
like,
And
I would
it becomes
rather nobody say anything to me. Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
correct. And it becomes like a performance, that you're not living your life, it becomes a performance. And like I give this anecdote. Have you watched Sholay? And
Yes.
right, and there is a, there's a scene, the Gabbar is tired, and sorry, Viru is tired, and Gabbar is asking Basanti, if you want to save his life, you have to dance.
Yeah.
And we was like, nahi Basanti, in kutton ke samne mat nachna. And there's a glass lying around, and there's, jab tak hai jaan jaane jahan main naach. And she'll start dancing. And I
Correct.
think that, really well defines, my life as a queer person, that we all have danced to that song, and we all have enjoyed, in parties, in weddings, at our homes and all. But for Basanti, for that character, she
Right.
danced really well. The music was really good, but she was definitely not enjoying it, right? It
Yes.
was a performance. And that's
Correct.
how, a person from outside, life might look, that, oh, it's going really great, but every day it's just a performance.
True, 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 true. Yeah, correct. On the outside, the world sees you dancing, but they don't know that your feet are bleeding, right? They don't know
Yes,
that every
yes,
time you step onto the stage, you're actually doing it with so much of angst, so much of pain. It's so much of a show that you're putting up for others, right? The others,
correct.
they don't see the bleeding feet. Right. So Sunil, for me, my foray into, or my foray into queer sensitization, or for that matter, anything about the LGBT community, there were two defining moments for me. One was largely after I quit service. I took up a job in Bangalore, and one of the verticals of the agency I was working with, it was a marketing agency. One of their verticals was a not-for-profit magazine for the LGBTQI community, which was started by their founder. So it's called 50 Shades of Gay. You might
Oh,
have. bit FSOG, yeah. And I began editing and writing stories for it, mainly human interest stories. And that's when I came across a lot of people from the community, whether they're gay, lesbian, bi, trans, all of them. And that's when I began understanding their stories, knowing their pain points, knowing, where they come from, what really hinders them. And one segment, one thread which ran common across all stories. And I've spoken to people from all sorts of backgrounds, right? So whether they are rich, poor, upper middle class, lower middle class,
Yeah.
whatever be it, the one common thread that ran across is that they had contemplated or attempted suicide, some
Mm.
of them multiple times, and some had attempted it successfully. So I could only speak to the parents or the siblings or the friends, and that really shook me up. That someone has to end their life because the person who promises to love and cherish and protect you all through
Correct.
chooses not to. Your own loved ones, your own, they just pull back. They don't want to be associated with you. They don't want to, they don't want that part just spoken about also. Okay, even if they know it, they don't want to acknowledge it. Just keep it away from us. They don't understand how much they cage their loved one into solitary confinement. While you are around society, you're still solitary. So that kind of made me get into queer sensitization. And
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
aspect,
Hmm.
yeah, sorry.
No, no, please. I was just saying, yeah, that's like very true. Over the period, I have been part, after my graduation, I started being part of community after coming to Bangalore, meeting people, being
Right.
part of NGOs, support health group, and, various activities. And, this people, like people being pushed, where
Mm.
they feel like they want to commit suicide. And, I have seen, and it's very, my eyes are, throat is tearing up, talking about it. Like I've seen over the period multiple acquaintances and some friends also who have either tried to commit suicide or
Correct.
who committed
They
suicide.
were
And and it's not about they don't want to live. There's a very misconception that people say, oh, you don't want to live, you don't have a zeal for life. The point is they don't want to live the way they are living. They
exactly
want to live, but they want to live a different
free.
life. It's a,
Correct.
environment and aspirations. And also,
Correct.
yeah.
Correct. True, Sunil. So I think every child, every person is born with dreams and ambitions and ideas. It just gets curbed along the way, right from childhood, right? If it is your most trusted and loved adults in your life, your first circle of security is your parents. You
Correct.
get shunned by them. Then the next circle comes your school and your teachers, and then they also don't understand, so you get shunned by them. Your peers are constantly bullying you. So it's not like you don't want to study, it's not like you don't want to be something in life. It's just that you constantly feel you are being challenged, threatened, and finally, it gets to a point where you can't take it anymore, and then you end your life. So it's not like you don't want to
Yes.
live. You just feel like you're being killed bit by bit by bit by bit every single day by
Correct.
everyone around you, right? So,
Correct.
speaking of teachers, Sunil, how was your experience, whether in school or whether in college? Were there moments where you got, your aspirations were dashed and you got bullied, not just by your peers and seniors, but even by the teaching staff? Even they didn't get it.
I think growing up, if I recall, uh, there's one thing, which I was always told. And uh, after being adult, and a lot of people tell me a very different thing. I was always picked on my voice. People will be like, oh, you have a very feminine voice. And in Hindi they say, तुम लड़कियों की तरह क्यों बात करते हो, तुम लड़कियों की तरह क्यों बोलते हो. And I remember once, one of my teacher, I was saying something, and in front of whole class, he said, why you're talking like girls. And that, suddenly, like as a kid, it just
Correct.
stops you suddenly. You are like, what happened? That's my voice. And the voice is something, which you, if you want to communicate, you have to use it. There's
True.
no other way. It's not like you can go, like maybe playground, or playing can be, you don't play for a month or 2 months or a year, and I never played in my childhood. But voice is something, you talk every day, right? Every moment you need to use it. And I grew up being ashamed of my voice. Every time whenever I was talking, it was like,
Right.
suddenly you'll be like, oh, maybe people won't be interested in what I'm saying, they're more interested in how I'm sounding.
Mm. Right.
And that
Right.
becomes like, the constant pressure on you. And that incident, I think one of the major incident, even till recently, I was very, you know even when I hear my phone recordings, I'll be like, maybe now how people perceive me, they'll be like, oh, you sound very masculine, you have very bass voice and all, things.
Right.
But for me, my identity has been formed by, what I was told as a small kid. So
Correct.
definitely there has been such incidents, where you feel like that. But then also there has been some good teachers also, you
Okay.
know where who stood by me, when people were being bullied, and they're like, no, to the bullies, they were like, no, you cannot do this. This is
That's
not the space to do this. Let them be themselves. So that it has been both good and positive. And somehow, I mean, I'm one of the fortunate people that, uh, I don't have really big sob stories, but yeah, there were moments, which affects you every day. But there were also moments, which were uplifting me throughout, and carried me through that childhood.
fair. So when you speak of teachers, Sunil, did the teachers support against the bullying, or did they understand who you were, what you were going through, and they supported you in a way for your queer identity?
Uh, Let me think. I think it's not about they understood. I don't think that was the time when there were conversations happening, or
Right.
people were aware. They knew that this kid is different.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knew. I myself knew, but
Right.
maybe they didn't understand. But they were like, but they provided me a sense of safety in
Right.
those moments,
Right.
and that safety, took that pressure off me, for
Correct.
some time,
Correct.
which helped me to focus on my studies, which
Right.
helped me to perform and not to be worried about 100 other things. So I think that is becomes very important, even be it queer identity, or be it other class, gender, caste, or geographical things we might not understand. But providing that place of safety for people, you feel like, hey, I don't understand you, I don't know what is happening to you, I don't, probably I don't even have bandwidth to
Correct.
understand what is going through, but you are safe, whatever you're doing. And I think that safety was provided by my parents and my teachers in a lot
Yes.
of ways. So that took pressure off me, and that helped me to focus on my studies and do well. Yeah.
Correct. Sunil, I'm sorry. There's someone at the door. I'll just
Sure, sure.
because, like you said, back then there were no conversations regarding it, and even if there were, people looked at it as a crime, right? Growing up, probably until 2016, it was, even with the
2018.
knowledge,
Yeah.
people would refuse to speak about it, right?
Correct.
Again, the reason I ask is because educators, no matter how abreast they may keep themselves with the subject, with child psychology, this aspect of child psychology or growing up or individuality is somehow not taught, to teachers, by teachers, among teachers, never discussed, never spoken about. And that's why I asked you that question, that did they protect you just against bullying, or did they understand what's happening and protect you with that intent? That
Yeah.
was my
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
idea of
That's what I'm saying. And maybe they were not, maybe I don't know whether they were allies, or they are now they are not, or they are allies. I have no idea. So they probably didn't understand, or maybe they understood. We never had conversation about it, but they were amazing teachers for sure, because they understood that child needs safety to to
true.
grow and to figure themselves out.
Correct, correct, correct. So then, Sunil, as you began to grow, you entered, STEM. You studied science and technology. Uh, did you think there were role models that you could emulate in STEM, from the community? And did I mean, if there were, how did their presence impact you? If there weren't, how did the absence how the absence of any role models in STEM impact people from the community.
Um, I think one I'll share like how I got into college. So I
Sure.
come from a very lower middle class background, and there's interesting story. So till 12th I was in my hometown in Ludhiana, and my teachers told me, one of my computer science teachers, and they told me that you should pursue computer science, and it's amazing, and you should go to Chandigarh. And my parents were hell-bent, that no. And none of people in my in generations is has even completed high school. So I ran out of house. I ran away for 4 days. and
Okay.
and then I was like applying to colleges, going to colleges. I'm like, no, I have to go. And my parents, like, I came back and there was a big drama. And then they were like, okay, somehow they agreed, okay, we'll figure out how to pay the fees, but there was no living expenses. So I was doing part-time jobs, giving tuitions to people, and working alongside throughout my study. And that's how I completed my studies, because for me it was that education gonna be my agency, that
Correct.
education gonna give me leverage, education gonna bring awareness to myself, it gonna give me context. And the city, if I continue living there, I won't have that circle of people,
Correct.
you know
Correct.
with
Correct.
whom I can connect, the social capital,
Correct.
which
You're holding on to the well that you were in, back in your village, and
correct. And then I entered college, and then there's the same thing, through my graduation and postgrad. Talking about role models, there were no role models, from STEM, or because uh, they were like, even it was very, there's no conversations. It was not like 10 years, like 2005 or 2010. It was not like how we are having conversations now. There was not many out people, right? The word queer or gay, or they were also not very well,
yeah,
heard
correct.
well, or they were used in a very derogatory manner. So there were definitely no uh, role models. And
Mm-hmm.
that has that we say, like, we everything is done twice, once in your mind and once when you do it. And then
Absolutely.
lack of role models definitely plays a big role for people, because if you can't relate, you can't see that
Correct.
people like you can exist there. And
Absolutely.
they
Correct.
are there, and you also want to be like that. So definitely that was not there. The only source which kept me going through my graduation and postgrad is, like, we had really good internet connection back then in our
Okay.
university, and we had free access to it. So I'll
Okay.
watch this small short movies on YouTube
Uh-huh.
about queer life, and that made me feel that I'm not alone. And those things also had to hide and go to some
Correct.
classroom and sit alone and do it. But yeah,
Correct.
but at least I was like, okay, people like me exist out there, I'm not the only one. And I
Right.
didn't feel that isolated. But definitely in the STEM, the first person I came to know who was queer, and being a computer science student, Alan Turing. you know so
Yes.
Alan, yeah, he's called, father of computer. And Alan
Yes.
Turing has to hide his sexuality. He was put on
Correct.
trial, and
Yeah.
recently they
Yeah.
apologized about, this. So
Correct.
it's
Correct.
the eraser of queer history, or be it queer or even women. The
Right.
stories have been removed. So most of the time, when I came out during college, there was no role models. But after coming out from college, you start, when you start meeting other people, you start seeing people through queer lenses. And
Right. Right.
from their stories, you think maybe this person was queer, this person was gay or lesbian.
Correct.
Maybe, we don't know. I mean, their
Correct.
stories are never told, so you're just left to assumptions. So yeah, so
True.
lack of role models has definitely been a issue while growing up. Yeah.
Right. So again, going forward, connected to STEM, I was going to ask you. You said you came out during college, right?
Hmm.
And were there then any biases or discriminatory practices, even among your immediate friend circle? So they know you as a friend. They are there with you, but then suddenly, all of a sudden, I'm gay, and overnight or instantly you see reactions change instantly. They act as though, oh, that's why it makes sense that you don't do this and you don't do that, so all the stereotypes come rushing in. Did that happen?
Yes, I mean, I started coming out in 2014 after my graduation when once I came to Bangalore, and the reason was this Section 377 reinstated by, Supreme Court. So that was, I felt in 20, yeah, 14 or
Yeah,
13, I guess,
2013 it
13,
came
yeah,
back.
13,
So,
December
yeah.
13, yeah.
9 it went back.
That's
9 it went
yeah.
away. 13 it came back. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, no, I can't hide myself anymore. I have to be there. And, word used by Supreme Court is minuscule minority, rights of minuscule
Mhm.
minority. And it becomes important that, have to be out there. And once I started coming out,
Mhm.
people go through these things. First it's like, disbelief. You know, oh,
Right.
you are joking. Probably this is not true. And that has been my experience because once I grew up and entered adulthood, suddenly I was people started considering me, more mask or more, cis
Mhm.
passing, and which was not my identity while growing up. Where I was
Correct.
always picked on. So
Right.
there was disbelief, and people like, no, you're joking. And I remember my flatmates for 6 months. I kept telling them, hey, I'm gay, and they're like,
Right.
no, you just want attention. I'm like, no, I'm not looking for attention. I'm actually gay, believe me. And then once they start believing, and
Right.
once then a shock comes. Then that becomes
Right.
the reaction changes to that no, that oh,
Right.
we have to stay away, we can't shake hands, we can't hug, or a general inquisitiveness comes, which is like, where are you going, whom you are meeting, where did you meet someone, did you have a crush on
Right.
somebody in college, and all sort of
Right.
conversation, and conversation around this is wrong. The one, over the period, at some point, I think every time you come out, people who have don't know any other queer people, in one conversation it always this is wrong.
Yeah.
And but over the period with conversation, things change. One of my flatmates once said, we should kill all gay people. And now he's, I mean, yeah, that's like, I was like, oh, like what is happening? And but now he's like one of the biggest allies, and
Right.
a really amazing friend. And over the period, things have changed.
Right, right. So I guess most of our stereotypes growing up also come from what we are fed in terms of what we are fed at home, what we are fed through social media, what we are fed through, and back then less of social media and more of films, I would say, right? So
Correct.
popular cinema shaped people's knowledge of what a gay man should look like, what a gay
Correct.
man wears, how he talks, how he moves, how the gay man in the movie would always be a sidekick who would always have a crush on the hero, and the hero would push him away. So, thereby cementing the belief that men should stay away from gay men because gay men will
Yeah.
all come rushing towards them. I mean,
Yes.
especially
Yes.
if you're a good-looking hunk, then you cannot have a gay friend because he'll definitely have a crush on you. He'll
Yeah.
definitely hit on you, right? So that's the general stereotype. Even the effeminate nature that you mentioned, right? Every gay man has to be effeminate. Every gay man will talk a certain way, will gesticulate a
Correct.
certain way. So many stereotypes which unconsciously also get built into our psyche, right? From
Yeah.
whatever content we consume, whether it's our parents telling us something, whether it's the neighbors, whether it's peers, or popular cinema. That's why I guess popular cinema also plays such a big role,
True.
right, in
True.
how it
And
shapes.
yeah, and that's very true. And this goes, both way for queer men also, for gay men also. We sort of internalize certain things, and a lot of us go through this called second adolescence, or late adolescence. When you're 27, 28, you
Correct.
have completed your studies, you're working, you have certain leverage, and you're living alone,
Right.
and then you start, finding out, who you are,
Correct.
because when you're continuously performing since childhood, you forget who you are.
Absolutely.
You don't
Absolutely.
know what you like to wear, you don't know how you want to behave, you don't know what are your hobbies, you don't know what your likings, what are the things
True.
you actually enjoy doing. And this, like this period, and for me, that there was a period where I was experimenting with clothes, I was
Okay.
experimenting with different things, with sports, with music, with
Nice.
dancing, trekking, different things. And over the period, took me some time to figure out who I am. You know, these are the
Right.
things, like I mentioned about sports. And now I play, badminton, and I really love it. And I realized, that's probably I grew up hating sports, and I applied makeup many times. But now I feel like makeup or jewelry is not my thing. I
Oh,
went through that phase, but now I feel like that's not how I want to express myself.
right,
So the
right.
stereotypes for queer men also, it takes a toll when you are seeing, like you said, role
Correct,
models, right?
correct, correct,
So
correct.
when you watch the role models or the people like you are shown certain way, you think
Right.
that that is the only way to be. But that's,
True.
the whole point of being yourself is that, there's different ways to be yourself. You choose
Correct,
what you want. Yeah.
correct. Wearing a mask for so long that it becomes a part of your face. You can't differentiate now between the mask and the face. And then when it starts peeling off little by little, that's, I guess, the experimentation, and that's the second adolescence that you speak of. The mask is sort of peeling off, and you don't know which part is you, which part is the mask. And I guess only
Correct.
until the whole thing comes off, and then you discover that, oh, this is who I actually am, this is how I want to be. These parts tried, tested, didn't work. Probably these were masks that I was wearing, or just desires that I was trying to fulfill, but no, these don't work for me. So yeah, like you rightly mentioned, you have to relive your entire adolescence. What a
Yeah.
cisgender heterosexual person would outgrow, you begin to live only after your, let's say, mid 20s, or once you're independent, once you're out of the house, you begin to now peel off that mask which is probably stuck
Correct.
to your face so closely, right? It's become
Correct.
you, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I agree.
And also I just want to add one point on this, many times what we see is
Sorry, sorry about that.
no issues. Uh, uh, One thing, a lot of people I've heard saying, and this is said, oh, because you are from a minority, be it any minority, be it women, gender minority, or be it sexual minority, or
Mhm.
class, caste minority, they say these people outperform, they do well because
Mhm.
there's a pressure to prove themselves, so they
Mhm.
have really good. And this was recently said, one of the meetings, person said like how pregnant women are really good at multitasking and time management because they have to their kids and their self and work, so we should learn from them how to multitask. But that's where I say, we can't, our trauma can't be a productivity thing. Our marginalization can't be used as a productive. It works well, definitely. Like for
Right,
me,
right.
like I come from a place where there was no education, and it
Mhm.
helped me, my queerness helped me push myself to outperform and be educated. And along with me, it pulled my family and extended families. They saw that okay, it is possible, and one after another, but it worked, definitely it worked. And I always say wherever I'm today because of my queerness, but wherever I am not today is also because of my queerness. I
Right,
never played sports in my life. What
right.
if maybe sports was my thing? I don't know.
Yeah, you were good at it.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah. So it works both ways, so we can't just look at, oh, just maybe so maybe like it sometimes it gets glorified, the marginalization get glorified, that it builds people, it brings the best out of people because they know how to. No, survival is not, you know
Yeah,
uh
survival,
it's not living. Yeah.
correct, is not a boost to productivity. I mean, survival cannot be the panacea for uh, productivity or gaining confidence, right? So
Correct.
it can be. I keep going back to the anecdote which you mentioned, right? Chole. So again and again, while you were saying this also, right, the person who's watching in the audience thinks that, oh wow, person is dancing so well, and person is performing so well, but they don't know that the real performance is because they are either trying to save Viru, or they are trying to
Yeah.
save themselves, or they just want to put on a facade so that people don't find out they're dancing on glass and people think that they're giving a great performance. So I guess
Yes, yes, correct.
it's the same thing with queer people, right? Even if you're doing well at studies, even if you're trying your best, probably you could have done something else. Probably this was not what you wanted to do. You're just pushing yourself in that direction in order to get out of your situation, or to prove that you are good, or simply because all other avenues are shut, so this is the only avenue that is available to you, so you put
Correct.
all your energies there, right?
Yes,
uh,
yes.
it curbs the individuality of a person, I guess,
Correct.
the full discrimination, right? And speaking of education, Sunil, what would you suggest? Where do you think we still have gaps in our education system when it comes to queer acceptance? Do you think we need to change the curriculum? Do you think we need to change the way teachers are taught? I personally feel teacher training itself needs to be extremely different. But where do you think, as a gay man, what are the gaps that you have encountered? What advice would you give for educational institutions in general towards inclusion of queer persons?
I think particularly in education, uh, and this is I'm speaking from my experiences and experiences from other people also. uh, the curriculum itself, you know
Mm-hmm.
and the curriculum itself is very limited, and many times it's wrong, like say. And I don't want to speak from just a gay man, but even LGBTQI perspective. You see, like, doctors are considered, the medicine is considered, the pinnacle of studies, and
Right.
but there's so much misinformation among doctors. And
Correct.
sometimes biology is sort of used as a way to hinder the rights, to curb people's freedom, that, oh no, certain chromosomes, so you can't be express yourself in other ways, right? Or for the enough, like, lack of uh, the misinformation among community, medicine fields, and that's definitely that, one thing. And another is lack of research, right?
Right.
If you see in 80s and 90s, uh, probably, I don't know what are the statistics about India, but in US, like, generations of queer people were eroded because of HIV and AIDS, right? Because there was not enough information, there was not enough research, and not enough conversations happening around it. So that is one thing. The curriculum is definitely one thing. And another thing, sensitization.
Correct.
you know
Correct.
that sensitization is very important, and sensitization is not a one day thing. It's not like a one day training or 2 day training. Sensitization is something you have to do. It's it's like I tell people, it's like KYC. It's like every year you have to do sensitization,
Absolutely.
just like a bank
Absolutely.
KYC.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
Because
Correct. I agree.
yeah, it's like so because the conversations, like the small comments, the small misinformation,
Mhm.
hinders people. And that is, where the sensitization come. What is LGBTQI, and what is, what are their challenges? What are the things, the counseling in schools and colleges, which is, very important. I remember, uh, I was, and I'll go back to my college. It was
Mhm.
like my last semester, second
Mhm.
last semester,
Mhm.
and in the next semester, the placements was about to start,
Okay.
and I went nuts. The pressure was so high because throughout my childhood, I was striving that, okay, this placement gonna be my ticket to freedom,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and if I don't get placed, I can't be myself. For other
Right.
people, it was just a job. They were like, what's the big deal? If this job it doesn't work, we can find another one. But for
One.
me, that job meant, a pivotal point in my life, that, this is, the line I have to cross. And I went
Correct.
crazy, and, I couldn't study. My grades from 9, GPA to it fell to 6.
Oh. Okay.
And for 4 months I was like, people were around me, what is happening, why you're not studying, why? Because the pressure was so high, at the that's what I was saying, in some way it worked for me. But in that, and that was my first, I think, experience with, that sort of
Right.
knowing, depression to some extent. And I was like, okay, the pressure was so high, and that, this stopped, but there was no counseling available, and I had to go. And I went to a government hospital. And luckily there was one, uh, uh, and now I'm recalling it, and before that I didn't think about it. And there was this doctor.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, she kept on insisting that you take this medicine. you take this medicine. And I was
Mhm.
like, no, I don't want medicine. I'm
Hmm.
here to talk. I
Hmm.
want to talk, and I want to take some, steam off my, because I couldn't talk to my friends. I couldn't talk to my family. I couldn't talk to my, teachers.
Clear
So,
words, yeah. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and there was no counseling available in college, and forget career counseling. So that was the only place I went, and she kept prescribing. But I was like, okay, no, let me just take steam off, let me just talk, and I'll go and talk there. And after that, I was sort of able to compose myself and get placed and get working, because that pressure,
Correct.
and was really high. So that counseling is very important, understanding. And that's where the term equity comes. We talk about DNI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. The equity is very important, that you see that where people are lacking, they might need extra support. It's like, you give them extra support so they can perform their best and they can perform better. And the third thing is definitely, which India really needs to do for trans people, is financial scholarships and all that. That is also very, probably, because intersectionality, people come from different backgrounds and different things, and and a lot of people, a lot of queer people, especially uh, you know trans women, and trans people, even if they come from well-off families, sometimes you get cut off from your family, because your family uses their money as a way to control you. They're
Correct.
like, you get this if you behave the way we want you to behave.
Right.
You dress up certain way, only then we'll pay for you.
Correct.
Right, so that control, so that having for especially for trans people, having a financial this thing, scholarships, really helps them, so they can go and study and be who they want to be and contribute.
Fulfill their desires, yeah.
Yeah,
Fulfill who they want to be. True, true, true.
correct, definitely.
Right, right. So, what I largely hear from you is certainly counseling, introducing counseling, right? Teachers need to understand the kind of pressures that a queer child goes through. And thirdly, funding, funding
Yes,
for queer persons to further their dreams, further their desires, go and achieve what they wish to achieve, right?
correct,
So
correct.
those are the main things that I'm taking away from this. uh, with regards to mental health, right, the lack of inclusive facilities, whether it's for maybe as a gay person you might not feel the lack of inclusive facilities to that great an extent as a trans person, but they definitely impact mental health, a sense of belonging. So, what do you think, again, educational institutions or even workplaces can do to create safer spaces for queer persons?
um, I think this hmm. So definitely, let me think for on this 1 minute. And
Yeah,
uh, before that, let me ask you, like a cross question.
yes,
When we started, right, you said that after the service, driving from services, and you started working in your company, and you came across
yeah,
this magazine, 50 Shades of Gay, and you met a lot of people, and your views changed. Like,
yes.
I want to ask, like, what changed and why it changed?
Okay. So, okay, I'll be very honest. This was the question, the question asked to me at the interview when I went to work for this agency.
Hmm,
They just said, "Are you okay with LGBTQI people?" Now, I knew the full form, I knew what it stands for, and I did not know anything beyond that, right?
hmm,
Just I knew what lesbian is, gay is, bisexual is, all of that. And I said, I am okay with anyone being anyone. I remember that being my answer, right? Anyone being themselves is fine with me. And
hmm,
to be very honest, Sunil, that is what got me through, because at that point I did not know anything beyond the full form. But the
hmm,
one that I have believed throughout, I think throughout my life, has been live and let live. So just by that mantra, I was like, I am okay. I
hmm.
don't know much, I don't know anything, I'm willing to learn, but I have no problems against anyone being who they are. So
Huh.
that was my premise, and I went from there to then knowing a lot more about the community.
I think that's like Dilshad. That's like answers. Both my question and your answers. I think that's what I was also looking for. Like being upfront. I think that's one thing companies or any institution can do is being upfront.
Yeah,
Saying that hey, we support equality. We support DNI. Are you
right.
okay working with this?
Correct.
you know that I think
Correct.
brings confidence in everyone. That like one thing, like say the company I'm working for currently, I
Uh-huh.
can name it, and
Yeah.
they are upfront that hey, we believe in DNI, and
Mm-hmm.
that gives me confidence. People say like we should hire queer people, we should have representation. Queer people
Mm.
are everywhere. There's
Correct.
not
Correct.
even a single person on earth who doesn't know another gay, lesbian, bisexual, trans person. They are in
Correct.
your families, they are in your friend circle, they're in school, colleges, right? Being upfront that, hey, we believe in equality gives people that chance of, being safe and allow themselves to be themselves and come out. And I think
Correct.
that's what your organization did. And that's the first step organizations should do is they should just put it everywhere that we support LGBTQI,
Yes.
and that gives confidence to people to come out, and also the people who might not be okay, it's
Yeah.
brings that thought process, hey, maybe I just know the term, or maybe who don't
Correct.
even know the term, they will google it.
Correct.
And
Correct. Correct.
that is definitely the first step, being upfront about it, and not shying away from it, and thinking, and and the second, definitely, once one step leads to another, is again it comes to sensitization, that talking about it, having
Absolutely.
like trainings on microaggressions, which are very common at workplaces, especially like a small underhand comments, and the comments, unreasonable questions, or
Correct.
oh, you don't look certain way, how come,
Right.
why you're not married, you should be married
Mm.
by now. Such questions, microaggressions, definitely.
Correct.
And another is like trainings, very important training is unconscious biases.
Mm. Yep.
That's like another very important aspect of training, because a lot of time we think that's the way, because our worldview, until it is challenged, we think that's
Correct.
how the world works. I think it's also called a confirmation bias or something, that we think whatever we are thinking, everybody is thinking same thing.
Yeah. Correct. That's correct.
Yeah, right, because that's how our worldview is, and I think that trainings and the conversations about it is the best
Right.
way to go about it. And once you do that, I think these two things are way more than sufficient. And once you do these two things, I think your people, your employees, your co-workers will build the things which is might be unique to every organization.
Right, right. In fact, Sunil, you answered my next question itself, right? What role can allies play in the inclusion journey? But like you rightly said, right? Everybody, if they just understood that people can be different and that's okay, right? I think
Definitely.
that's the beauty of being an ally. Whether you know much, you don't know much, it's a journey. It's a journey for all of us, right? It's not like gay men know everything there is to know about
Definitely,
LGBT.
definitely. We are one
No,
of the most horrible kinds sometimes.
correct.
when,
Everyone makes mistakes, and it's perfectly fine to do so. It does not make you an ally. Making mistakes does not mean you are not an ally. As long
correct.
as the intent is genuine, that I am okay accepting a person as they are, and maybe I might make mistakes along the way, but I'm willing to learn. If I
Yes,
have
yes,
that
very
intent,
true.
right? I guess that's all that allyship is all about, right? Whether
Yeah,
you
yeah,
are a
it's just very
teacher,
true.
whether you're a mentor, whether you are a father figure, a brother figure, anybody, the base foundation and premise has to be the intent of letting a person just be themselves, and
Correct,
I
correct.
that's the
And
first
I
step for
think I'll relate it to back to my childhood. You ask question about teacher, whether they were allies. I don't know whether they were allies, but they let me be. They provided that safety,
me.
right? And I think as individual, as allies, that's one thing everybody can do is, knowing that, hey, I don't understand what is this, all going on. And probably you might not have intent or bandwidth or time or interest or anything you put it to understand. Like, your struggles can be very different. Like vets coming retiring from services and coming to corporate might be a very different journey for you, right?
Correct.
And
True.
you might have your own challenges and face those things. So same way for allies, for queer people, they can just be like, be yourself, I'm there for you, I don't understand. And
Correct.
just be open, be honest, that hey, I don't know everything. Like about gender, a lot of people have this question like, what if we misgender somebody?
Yeah.
What will happen? If
Yeah.
you misgender somebody, say sorry and start
Yeah.
using correct gender.
Move on.
Simple.
Absolutely correct. Correct. I mean,
Right.
every person can, tell whether this is a repetitive mistake, is this deliberately done, or is this
Correct.
non-intentional. So it's not like, somebody is going to sue you if you misgender them.
Hmm.
Misgendering happens, and it could happen very innocently, very accidentally. So just apologize, be conscious of using it correctly the next time, and move on. I mean, it doesn't have to
Hmm.
be stop talking to that person at
Correct.
all, or, अब तो मैं गेज से बात ही नहीं करूंगा because I end up misgendering people, so let me
Yeah.
just not talk to the queer
Correct.
community. That's a
And
very wrong.
also, yeah, very wrong thing. And very another important, thing which from allies, comes in. I think that's a good thing is understanding that sometimes you don't have to understand everything.
Yeah, correct. It's okay.
That's very,
Not,
it's okay not to understand. It's
yes.
okay if you have misconceptions, because like lot of pressure, because when people say that hey, I'll use correct gender, I won't ask you about marriage, I'm okay with your sexuality, but they come with question of 100 questions. They're like, we want answers to everything. Then they want to quote religion, they want to quote history and politics and social norms, and what should the future be. It's like the debate, every debate under sun, in the universe is like, okay, how everything will change, like the world will crumbling down if you're gay. And I think that conversation that is one good aspect of being ally, is like how you can be
Right.
better allies, understanding that you don't know. And probably the person who is from the community who's LGBTQI, like for me, I don't know, like what or, some history has said, or some person has said, or what are, I'm not expert in anthropology and history, I don't
Correct.
know. Right? Or what are the law of universe, might be you
Correct.
thinking it just because I don't procreate, and what will happen to my ancestors. I don't know. And I
Correct.
can't answer. I can't answer it.
Your person is not your Wikipedia page or
Yes.
your Google search bar. I mean, everything that you want to know does not have to come from your gay friend. You can
Yes.
make the effort to Google and learn from the correct sources. You can pick up a book and learn. You don't have to. The gay friend doesn't have to be your Wikipedia. I mean,
Definitely. And I think that's one thing, sometimes as queer people we get bugged about, and I personally get bugged about, that your education is your responsibility. I'm happy to tell you and point you, but I'm not going to sit you like 6 months course and telling you everything about them. So I think
correct.
being
Correct.
like coming back to being allies, I think that's very important to understand that people don't know everything, they just want to be themselves, they're figuring themselves out. So give them space, let them figure out, and you also figure out yourself. you know uh,
Exactly.
I think that's,
That's
yeah.
important. And in closing, Sunil, just one last question. Since we spoke so much about education, schools, colleges, if you had the power to design the educational curriculum or the ideal educational institution, what are the aspects that you would look at? Let's say, especially for higher education, because that age and that stage in life makes or breaks a person forever.
Hmm.
So, if you could design an ideal educational institution in the field of STEM, what would that
Hmm.
look like?
Mm, I think that's like I have to really think about it. Not on top of my head, but let me think.
This is
I think
again the
one,
Wikipedia kind of question. Like,
yeah.
you're gazing, you won't tell
But very
me.
aspirational and very good thing, and that question. So I think one is like I want to go like Sam Altman. You know, everybody's talking about ChatGPT, Gen AI, and
Mhm.
he's heading this company, and he's identified as a gay person or a queer person. So if that person would have, been busy about dealing with their sexuality, probably they are dealing in their own way, but if has been constant hiding and performance, they wouldn't be able to reach that potential,
Mhm.
where they can, bring revolutionize, like I really see how the time has changed from Alan Turing to Sam Altman, you know, the world has changed and it's so beautiful, and be there in a lot of work. But then coming to like what can be done, I think one, I don't really have concrete answer for this, but a very thing, I think all STEM courses or scientific experiment is about asking questions and understanding that we don't know things
Right.
and being open about it. I think that's like, as a student, as a person, I also see, that is like a pillar of education, anywhere, that attitude that you don't know things, and when you are experimenting, you are learning, you are doing something, you are not leaning towards one experiment. You don't want result to be in a certain way. You
Correct.
are open to the result,
Correct.
whatever comes out to
Right.
be. I think that scientific thought,
Right.
sometimes we miss where, curriculum and, certain,
Correct.
this has been written and all this, that questioning and,
Mm.
being open that, the results can be neither way. I think that pillars, we need to bring back to studies. And sometimes, as STEM students, we are open to it, but sometimes, we become like, oh no, no, this thing has been done, that's how it should be. I think that
Correct.
mindset brings it
We lose
brings
scientific info.
yeah, that scientific thought we lose. I think that can be a, I feel, a really pillar can be
Yes,
for STEM
absolutely.
courses.
Right. Uh, so one example that comes to my mind is, what we saw in Three Idiots, and the educational institution that Rancho comes up with in his hometown in Ladakh,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Children learn by doing.
correct,
The results are going to remain the same. I mean, science is going to remain, science behind the result is going to remain the same, but the child learns better by doing than rather by just being preached, by being told that this is what the result will always be. Why
correct,
don't we open it up for the child to learn, and through applications? It doesn't have to be only through laboratory experiments,
correct,
actual real life applications, right? I think that's one thing that, I mean, can certainly help. And like you rightly said, if you open it up for everyone, so it doesn't have to, the educational institution doesn't have to say, oh, we are open to LGBT. We are open to everyone, right? I guess if
correct.
the minute you say everyone, you're not targeting any one particular community, or you're not saying
Mm,
that I am biased for or against a particular community. You're just saying everyone is welcome here. Do not come with individual pressures, do not come with individual baggage. You can just be yourself here. I guess that it
correct.
automatically promotes good learning, right?
Yeah, I think that's very true. And then same thing which we discussed earlier, being upfront about it, that
Correct.
yes, we suppose like a small LGBTQ flag somewhere you see, and this establishment, this institute is, queer friendly, or they're an ally. Maybe they're not doing anything, or maybe they just have intent to do it. But that itself, gives people to confidence, and we definitely and start doing,
Better.
now definitely a lot of work has happened in past, like where we have a lot of like how I grew up, people won't have the same thing, that they don't have. Probably next time you ask somebody, a student, who is their queer idol, from STEM, I think
Right.
they will have definitely have a better answer than
Absolutely.
me, because now there are a lot of people out there who are there, and people can look up and be, and
Correct.
yeah.
Correct. So I guess role models also, right? Role models also matter.
Correct, correct. That's why coming
Yeah.
out and representation matters. If you haven't seen, it becomes
Correct.
real difficult. You're left to your own devices to figure out, what to do and
Absolutely.
how to do it.
Right. Right. So it's been great, Sunil. It's been great. Thank you so much for all your answers, all your insights. It's been a wonderful conversation, and I hope people who listen in, and the powers that matter uh, do take something back and implement, even one suggestion, 1% of what we discuss here today. If someone watching who owns an educational institution or teaches at an educational institution implements, I think our country can gradually go a long way towards LGBTQI inclusion. So on that note, thank you so much. Thank you very, very much for being here.
Thank you, Dilsha. Thank you so much for this opportunity and for talking, and I'm very happy. And thank you for being such great host, and it was lovely talking to you. And thank you so much.